Well, good evening, all. I'm Epstein, and here we are with your SPDR-ETF stock market wrap-up. And this wrap-up is for the evening of Tuesday, the 24th of October, 2021. Wow. So, earnings season. You realize nearly 80% of the companies that have reported are beats? That's pretty darn good. There's some bad news coming out. I'm reading that stock buybacks could be in jeopardy because of high interest rates, that companies are better off doing other things with the money that they've got on the book rather than buying the stock. There's a lot of talk of that. Obviously, we're all waiting to see, is there another shoe to drop from these high rates? So far, haven't seen it. I've read reports that third quarter GDP is expected to come in over 5% growth. Can you believe that with all that we see? They attribute that to the strong employment that we have in the country, people still spending, and we keep hearing where people say, the consumer's tapped out. Well, I haven't seen it yet. And if you saw today's retail sales numbers that came out, the Red Book numbers, you are up at the best numbers I've seen in a couple of months. You're pushing 5%. That's not weakness. Interesting as can be. Okay. So we still have the Israeli conflict, or war. I guess war would be the right name. We have warmongers that want to see what happens when Israel invades to the financial markets, and the others, of course, how many people are going to be killed, because the death toll isn't going to be slight. It will be immense if Israel does go in with ground troops on both sides, Hamas, civilians, Israelis, it's everybody. The big question is, we've now got two carrier groups in the area. We are making, without any question, unbridled, that is the word in quotes, unbridled threats to Iran if you and or your surrogates attack American troops in any manner, blah, blah, blah. With that, in Syria, they fired right at the troops. I don't make this stuff up. I just report on it. So I don't know what's real, what isn't real, but the situation's getting severe. There are plans underway that if it erupts in the Mideast and they can't control it, how do you get Americans out of there? There could be 100,000 Americans in the Mideast. What do you do with them? It's a big question. My wife was going to go, as I told you, to Egypt. That's canceled, and all her girlfriends canceled. They told her, your husband, blah, blah. All of them have now canceled their trips to the Mideast. Nobody wants to go there for a minimum of a year. Let this die down. You don't need to be an American in the problem area, especially with the last name Epstein, right? So you put this all together, and that's what you're dealing with. Now, Meta, got to get all the reports here. What's it going to do? We saw Alphabet did great in everything, but its cloud business wasn't great, okay? Yet Microsoft, a blowout today to the upside. We have a pattern. You can visually even see it, lower highs and lower lows on the chart. So the swing line is turning down. The market is fighting right at where it typically does. How often do you hear me tell you in these videos that the markets like to fight at the 18-day average? You'll get up to a point, they'll pull back, and from there, they try to make a decision. What next? They're calling their neighbors. What do you think? Should we go up? Should we go down? That's basically what's going on. If it does slip, 298.37, the 100-day average is waiting. But this is not a bullish pattern. Even if tomorrow you just picked up and ran, unless you first took out the low of today and then did it, you'd still have a bearish overall pattern. Big supports racing up with the Bollinger Band probably going to hit or exceed that 100-day average tomorrow. So that's your support zone. Here's the battle zone. And your resistance is going to be last week right up here. That 325.94 area. Then we look at momentum. The market has now worked off a bad situation where it was overbought and not embedded. Now you're getting into neutral momentum. Flip a coin. This can go either way. Earnings, got to wait on everything. That's what we're waiting on. Rivian now got what? Well, it has a bearish embedded reading. Notice that both numbers were under 20. They were under 20 day before and the day before. And the day before, not the day before that. So now what we have is a market that closed near the day's high. Could be a trap. If the market rallies up to the resistance of 1822, about 80 cents higher, the way the math is in this red line can pop over 20. If it does, while it's there, I don't think the pros will sell into the market. And all of a sudden, you could be saying you lost that downside momentum, you've popped, and the resistance number, if that happens and you're not at the 200-day average, that'll become the first goal. If you're over it when it happens, it might be able to reach up to the 18. It could also just stall there. But either way, it may not be the short sale. I'm concerned about that. In UGA, the market had its rally, got up to the 100-day average and faltered. Now, most times it'll stop at the 18. It gave you an extra 4 days, basically over it, and fell right back into it. The point is, it expended its power. It's gone. It got overbought. It ran out. It's like anything else. You didn't put fuel in your lawnmower, although a lot of us have electric ones. You didn't plug it in, whatever. You didn't power charge it. And that's what basically happened. It's restructuring. That's what it has to do. In XLF, this whole rally didn't make sense, I guess, to that 200, 100 Bollinger Band. To me, it made sense. You had an uptrend, began here. It exceeded the 18. It goes to the next number. Sometimes, it's fairly often, it'll look for another resistance point. It happened to hit all of them, and it just fell apart at the same time. Nothing has changed. If anything, if it was rallying on interest rates going up, they're still going up. That becomes the issue. What is that problem? I think part of the problem is, where does money move on these financial services? It doesn't just stay where you're at. Sometimes banks lose big deposits because they move around. I can get more money doing this or that, and that happens with it. On the industrial sector, obviously, high interest rates, high fuel prices, war, people are nervous. That's what I think's going on. Then we get to AI, C3, AI, INX. Isn't that crazy how it does that? But it's sideways, folks. Hasn't gone anywhere. I think that's such a difficult name. I'll probably get another market that I cover there. I hate that name. But just a sideways market. You can't say that that's trending one way or the other. It isn't. Now, I thank you. I had RSP up here. It was wrong, and I didn't realize it, and one of you wrote me and explained to me what I was doing. This is what I wanted, and I guess I forgot to put the D, but I'm a chartist, so do I care? I really don't. I'm looking at the chart picture. And when you look at the consumer, it doesn't like what it's seeing. The markets, many of the indices have taken the attitude that the consumer is spent out. This chart certainly looks that way. There's nothing bullish in this whatsoever. When we come to the home builders, how do they get away from whatever? And I think there are problems. You got to be very careful. If you bought a home and you gave money to that developer, does he have enough money to finish it, number one? I know that sounds crazy. It is true. Did he pull your permits? What's going on? Get nervous in this kind of market about everything. The good news is, lumber costs did collapse in the marketplace. They're not what they used to be, but they're not doing well. As creative as these guys are, 8% mortgages are a big number that they got to deal with, and how do they get the buy down? I explained how it's done. I'm not going to do it again. There are ways to do it for a 1-year period, but if interest rates stay up longer, or the public thinks they're going to stay up longer, and you need a mortgage, you got a problem, because you're able to say, what do I do after that 1 year that we bought down? I'm going up to 8%. Well, that's 40% more on my mortgage or whatever. That's the problem. So you're back down here. You're not getting it. Now, we're going to get some more housing numbers coming out right away. Pay attention to them. In the energy sector, we know that we have heard that there's not going to be problems out of the Mideast, supposedly, over an embargo of oil at this point, because the U.S. is just doing its ships there, right? We're innocent. We're fishing. Huh? Be careful. Okay, you don't know what this is going to be. However, we also are hearing reports, at least I started reading the first reports, that Russia is now overproducing oil, sort of breaking with what they had agreed for those 300,000 barrel cut. I don't know if it's true. It's the first reports that I read about it. It would make sense. The war is taking its toll financially on Russia. They'll tell you what a great job they're doing. They were supposed to have been in Kiev and by now had the resorts going up and going. And it was going to be the Russian annexed country, right? Not supposed to go this long. Well, it's gone nowhere. And that is a big problem for them. Remember in Crimea, there are ships that were all in Sevastopol and all the other areas? Are they still there? Okay. Wars are wars. They take crazy turns. This market just doesn't want to reach up for the upper band. It did so in September. It hasn't been able to. It's had an easier time of breaking down, probably because if you look at Europe, problems with their industrial picture. Now we go to China. They're trying to raise more money by having the government increase their debt to their GDP to try to get to next year. Remember what I'm going to say now. To try to get to this 5% goal that maybe they'll hit this year. In other words, it's not the growth engine it was. And if it's not the growth engine it was, does the oil belong at that price? These are questions we have to be asking. In GLD, you don't need me to tell you. You've got a market here that is bullish. It's waiting to see if there's going to be an invasion. If there is, wherever the Bollinger Band comes in, that's at least the first goal on the market. If you don't do anything soon, then you start rolling over the momentum. But right now, certainly a bullish picture there. Silver, not the same story. Not an embedded reading. Got up to the resistance, sort of fell. Couldn't go anywhere from there. Copper's getting a bit of a bid with these Chinese moves that it's making for its economy. In TLT, well, as I mentioned yesterday, hearing that Bill Ackman and saying that Bill Gross, both the bills came out of, they claim their positions where they're betting on higher rates. They think the geopolitics has to take center stage now, and people might run to the bonds and notes in the short term for safety. That would drop rates. And we're seeing that type of picture. You might get to that 18-day average. There's nothing bullish here. It's a correction in a market that got over bearish. That's how I view it. In the UUP, do you get more neutral than that just sitting at the 18-day average and drifting sideways? You don't. Everything's on hold on this war. The euro isn't, but the action of the finances of Europe and the industrial community is terrible. Did you look today at any of these numbers that came out? They're an absolute disaster in growth in Europe. You are not getting it. You watch. Miss Lagarde, I think it's Thursday, the bank of the European Central Bank will come out. She will give you the spiel. And it's that, yes, they're done very well in their fight against inflation. Unfortunately, the bottom's falling out of the economy at the same time. I know you don't like the words I'm using. Watch. So you put it all together. You try to come up with game plans. And how do you do things, especially in a markets that could have a war event taking place, a real one we haven't seen the likes of in a very long time. What do you do about it? Well, our free offers here walk you through it in many different ways. Our reports will talk to you. Cash markets, what's going on? Where are you? Technical studies, chart action. Here's what's going on in energy. Here's what we're seeing on the seasonals. I'll give you an example. You're coming to October 26th. Do you know that there's a seasonal that carries the market up in the S&P from now until the end of November, right into December? Do you know what it is? Which stock index to play? It's worked 15 out of 15 years. Does it mean it'll work to 16 out of 16? No. It's just history. Past performance doesn't guarantee that. But these are the things you want to know to get ideas for your trading arsenal. All the other things we have. This works this way. You go in, it's under the free offer section, and you click the blue offers, any that you might want. As you do so, what you're creating is a cart. In that cart, and these are free, you're then going to give us your name, your information. Within a business day or two, we will email you everything that you need. Can I make it any easier? That includes starting your free offers, if you're getting our research, things of that nature. So how do you get this and put it together? You go to Epstein, iraepstein.com. You saw my name at the top there, iraepstein.com. Or you can move your cursor to the top, be in the free offer section, and choose away. I'm Ira. Thanks for your time. I'll see you in the morning.